Welcome to Voice of the Franchisee, How They Chose What They Learned. This is Scott Elliott. On this show, franchise owners share the real story behind their decision to buy a business. We hear how they evaluated their options, what led them to choose a particular brand, and what they learned once they were actually running the business. Today's guest is Diana Miller, a multi-unit owner with Pink's Window Services. Diana and her husband, Mike, invested in 5 territories across Southeast Tennessee and North Georgia. 2 are already operating, with 3 more launching this year. Diana is also a franchise consultant, helping aspiring owners to explore franchise opportunities and find businesses that fit their goals. Here's my conversation with Diana Miller. Diana, welcome to my Voice of the Franchisee segment. Really glad you're with me today.
Thank you. It really is an honor and a pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Well, as you know, Diana, when we talked about doing this, I told you I really wanted to help people look behind the curtain and understand different people's journeys to ownership, as they became franchisees. So I guess, maybe let's start at the very beginning. Maybe if you could take us back a little bit to what you were doing before you became a business owner and what was happening in your life and your family's life when you decided that being a business owner maybe was going to be the right next step.
Yeah. So I am more new to business ownership. I did not grow up with parents that had their own businesses until I was in high school. Then my dad had a business, but it was like very stressful and not
Okay.
something I was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. So it wasn't until the last few years my husband and I got into real estate. And then when we had a rental, we had an LLC, and then we did a commercial lease. Um, that business ownership kind of started existing in my life, that I was a part of it. And
Mhm.
then I had been watching a lot of YouTube and a lot of content, and was exposed to Cody Sanchez. And so that's how we ended up getting into Pinks. But my husband, his dad has had a machine shop his entire life. His mom had a W
Okay.
2. And then, so my husband has like gone in and out of being a business owner. So he is much more familiar in that world. And so
Mhm.
that's how it kind of happened for us, that naturally, once we got married, we had started a family. And then
Mhm.
I had been a teacher in a previous life and didn't enjoy being in the classroom all day long. It
Huh.
was really exhausting. I was trying to think about like, what is a job that I could have that gave me more money, flexibility, something where I could feel like I was contributing to society in some way.
Mhm.
And so thought about nursing. I did a Google project management certificate, and then
Mhm.
um, started joining mastermind groups. So that's really when things like started making steps for us.
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay.
yeah, we went to YouTube University first. We watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to buy an Airbnb and then set it up. And so that was the first project that my husband and I got into. When Mike and I work together, we don't just like do things averagely. We both sort of
Okay.
have this competitive spirit to like be the best. And so
Okay.
that Airbnb is one of the top Airbnb in Chattanooga. And so then Chattanooga banned all new short-term rentals, so we couldn't do another one. So then we
Okay.
started flipping houses. And again, we got into a house. I joined a mastermind to learn how to flip houses. And we did 3 projects. And again, whenever we did a project together, it was like we couldn't just do it just to make money. We had to like bring the house to life and make it as
Mm.
beautiful as it could possibly get. But moving from like one really big project that takes 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, the last house we did, we had it for over a year and a half. And so
Oh
that's a
my.
very long time not to get paid.
Yeah.
And then we were finishing our last house flip, talked to my realtor. She was like, "What are you guys going to do? Are you going to do another house flip?" We're like, uh, we might buy a business. And
Okay.
yeah, so that was kind of our next, that at that point was like we were trying to get out of house flipping. We wanted some more consistent cash flow. That was the biggest
Mhm.
thing.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, I think what I heard there, Diana, primarily was you thought of something you wanted to do, and then you immediately took action. You started learning, you started networking, you started, going to people who knew, and then you tried it. Like you experimented. This is a classic path of successful people, right? So I think that's a great origin story that you have. Now,
Yeah.
when it came to finding pinks, right? When you pinks windows, how did you arrive there? Like how did you do the research? Who did you work with? How did you set criteria? What other options did you weigh? Like talk to us a little bit about how you decided to land with pinks.
Yeah. So at that conversation with my realtor, she said, "Oh, I have this manufacturing shop that I know the guy who's trying to retire. Would you guys be interested in looking at that?" And my husband had
Okay.
grown up with a machine shop in his,
Hmm.
like, that's how he grew up. So we looked at this guy. We ended up going to look at his business, and I joined Cody Sanchez's mastermind group that teaches people how to buy businesses because I thought,
Hmm.
I don't want to go into this by myself. I don't want to try to go talk to this owner. I have no idea how to look at his finances. Like, wanted that
Hmm.
support structure. So we joined her group, went through her process of like learning how to buy a business. And in her system, she kind of teaches you to have a buy box. So what can you like? How much income are you looking for? What industries are you looking at? And in that process, you kind of look when you're looking at what type of business would you buy? She kind of says to look at a flywheel. What are you doing right now? And then what are all the businesses around you that you're paying in your day-to-day work? And so coming from a real
Interesting.
estate background, we were like, oh, well, we're paying roofers and cleaners and painters and you know, electricians and plumbers and
Hmm.
realtors. We had all these people that we were that we had been paying that were already sort of in our sphere.
Hmm.
So we ended up not going with that manufacturing shop. In the meantime, Cody Sanchez came out with she kind of made some announcements and newsletters and videos that she was investing in a brand called Resi Brands, which stands for residential brands. And
Hmm.
it's basically a parent company that owns Pink's. I remember we were on vacation. We had just told this guy no. And I remember watching her video and she had talked about a franchise. And that was the first time that we had even thought about a franchise because
Interesting.
most
Okay.
people, you just don't think about it. So when
Yeah.
she mentioned it, the wheels started turning as far as like, oh, this is kind of like business, but with support. And
Hmm.
everything that we've done, I've learned and grown so much when I was in a community of other people doing the thing. You're not by yourself. So it really spoke to me that the model was a good one. My husband was the one that originally was like, Pink's is really good. Their branding is awesome. And I was like, I don't know, window
Sure.
cleaning.
Okay.
Are you?
Yeah.
Maybe. Um,
Yeah.
I really liked the painting idea and they have a garage renovation idea I love too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but and so we got back from vacation. We started having those conversations with Pinks, and we really did like them. But again, I said we can't just look at one. We need to look at some others. So at that point is when I did reach out and I talked to a broker who showed us other concepts in the home services. So we looked at like a fencing company,
Hmm.
insulation, garage flooring, glass
Hmm.
install. So that was when we kind of started looking at other options. And then we got really far with Pinks. And then there was another one that did like kitchen and bathroom remodeling that was very similar to what we had already been doing. But
Hmm. Hmm.
at the end of the day, when we started doing validation calls with the owners were still really involved in their business, like doing the
Mm.
project management 40, 60
Okay.
hours. And
Yeah.
I was trying to come out of that. Mike was
Mhm.
always my bottleneck. So I was trying, like, we ended up going with Pinks and I'm so glad we did
Mhm.
because now I don't have that problem.
I think that's awesome. So Resi Brands, you became aware of it through Cody Sanchez, which is amazing. I love that. You did your own homework though. You did your due diligence. You started directly with a brand and then you backed up. I think that's very interesting. You like gave yourself pause. You didn't get all excited even though the branding was fantastic and it had a good story. And then you worked with a broker. How was that process? Did you see real value in the education that the franchise broker provided to you?
The value of the broker was incredible because she was showing us brands that I would have never thought about
Mhm.
that were right up our alley that we were interested in.
Yeah, so she reached out to you or you found her, one or the other, right? And then you just made a connection. obviously you
Yeah.
trust her enough to work with her, but like you said, that experience you had, high value in the education, sharing brands with you that you otherwise wouldn't know. But it sounds like you learned a lot of from that experience where you realized you could probably deliver even more value to others as you are a franchise consultant yourself now.
Yeah, and I had not even at that point wasn't even a conversation in my head of
Mhm.
becoming a consultant. Just
Mhm.
you never know when things will sprout. And so it's like
Mhm.
these different ideas or seeds had sort of been in my, going through my consciousness basically. So, yeah, I didn't even know that that was a job. I didn't know that
Mhm.
someone could be a consultant. I didn't know that
Mhm.
that was
Mhm.
a thing, but um that's now what I'm
Mhm.
helping guide people through too.
Mhm.
So, I'm
Well, I mean, you obviously you have yeah, all the lessons learned through the process, what went well, what to do right, what went wrong, and how to not
yeah.
repeat those mistakes of others. I think that's a beautiful thing. Um, now, it sounds like the validation process was really what gave you the confidence to move forward with Pinks. Like you had a couple of different options, and it wasn't until you actually got to talk to owners where that difference really was clear to you, or at least the confidence. Is that accurate?
Well, it was definitely good. It was definitely what told us not to go with one brand, but actually with Pinks,
Okay.
it was more conversations with their franchise development team, the calls with Brandon and Carter. I think we
Mhm.
did the validation calls like in the group on the group call, but then
Okay.
I didn't go off on my own and find people, which I would
Mhm.
recommend to people to definitely do that. I
Yeah.
didn't do that, but you know, I knew Mike and I would do well no matter what we did. I had this
Mhm.
deep belief in myself, in my husband, in us as a
Mhm.
team that no matter what we chose, we were going to do a good job at it
Mhm.
because of the projects that we had just come off of. I was very, very sensitive to what job Mike would have as the owner,
Mhm.
especially as the operator, because he's really my
Mhm.
operator. I help him get
Okay.
into things, but
Mhm.
he
Mhm.
runs the day to day.
All right. No, I think that's great. I love the how you arrived there. I think that's very good. It sounds like you and your husband had a high confidence in your ability to execute. Like you didn't even question it. You weren't wondering, will we succeed in business? You were really just trying to find the best business to succeed in by the sounds of it. So
Yes.
I think that's a
Because we
great
had
attitude.
we'd been stacking wins, We
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
Airbnb, then we flipped 2 houses, then we flipped a really big house.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we had like, everything we'd done for 4 or
Yeah.
5 years, we'd been, like, stacking small wins on top of small wins, and so
Mhm.
that's why when we got into Pinks, it felt doable.
So let's kind of zoom back to that point in time, talking about the reality of your launch, those first 90 days in business. What was hardest for you versus maybe what went better than expected? Like how was starting out? What was that like?
Okay, so I also because of what we had done and been through, the other thing when we picked Pinks and how simple of a business model it was, we could see that it could scale
Mhm.
easier than other businesses, that other models we
Mhm.
had looked at. And so we didn't just buy one territory. We were like, Chattanooga is made up of 2 territories. We definitely want those. And then
Mhm.
what can we get in the nearest closest markets to us? So Chattanooga's halfway between Atlanta, Nashville, Knoxville, and Birmingham. So we looked at all those markets. So we ended up buying 5 total territories, 3 in the North Metro Atlanta area and 2 in Chattanooga. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I knew we would do Chattanooga well. And for us, the challenge would be to open a location in a place where we didn't live. I just
Mhm.
knew Chattanooga's going to be fine. I'm not going to worry about Chattanooga. So when we signed on our contract, we signed on in August. We were still finishing up our last project. So we ended up not opening until May, and we had all that time to finish up our house. Then we started going through the training with Pinks. I mean, we
Mhm.
were more than ready to open. And then the other, I would say, blessing was I
Mhm.
had flown this position for technicians on the internet, and somebody responded and asked if we were hiring a salesperson. And we weren't really thinking about that at the time. But this all to answer your question, the opening went way better than we had expected.
Interesting.
And because this salesperson sold us. He was just awesome, and he looked like a pink sky, and he had experience. My husband's more of an introvert. This guy's
Mhm.
more of an extrovert. He doesn't mind talking to customers and going around and doing quotes, which is not what my husband would rather do. He would rather be with the guys in the van, making sure that they uh, are cleaning the houses properly and using the equipment
Mhm.
right and aren't having issues. So that hire was like an unlock for us because that immediately put Mike in a manager role so that we have
Mhm.
our sales guy who's running around doing the estimates, quotes,
Mhm.
getting quotes, which was super important when you're first starting to get that revenue
Yeah,
coming
gotta
in.
get the
You have
revenue.
to have somebody, got to have somebody going out to give out quotes. And then the technicians, I would say the only other challenging thing in the very beginning, I hired someone who was just such a great guy. He's such a nice guy. He's so friendly, but he didn't want to be on a ladder. And I didn't express that in the very beginning when we hired him that this is a window cleaning job. You're going to be on ladders. It's more of a manual labor job. Kind of sold him
Mhm.
on Pink's being this cool company and not
Mhm.
like the actual reality of the job. So again, because we had just had this big house and we had made some hiring mistakes, I didn't let it go on. I didn't let it linger. So I immediately called him, 3 days into his work. And I said, I'm so sorry. Like, this isn't the right fit and we'll pay you 2 weeks and, let
Yeah.
anything I can do to
Yeah,
help you,
you
let
had
me
to
know.
make the executive decision, right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Sure.
we did that in the
Mhm.
very beginning, and that was the right call to make. And then we opened our second territory in August. So now we are up to 2 vans, 4 technicians.
Mhm.
We just got through our first winter time with them, and we're now pivoting down to Atlanta to open our next 3 locations or next 3 territories. And that I would
Mhm.
say has been the biggest challenge, which is what I knew was
Mhm.
trying to hire in a different place. So that's
Mhm.
what we're dealing with right now is trying to
Mhm.
hire. We need a GM, and that operator is really an important player. It's the most important hire. And so finding the person that's on brand, who has our values, who has the experience, who's willing to take the amount of money we're offering, which, these people could probably go get higher paying jobs, but who can see the vision and who want to grow with us and see
Mhm.
the upside by staying. Like that's been harder than I thought.
It's one of the things that, I know maybe you find it to be true too as you work with your clients in the franchise consulting space. I know for me, everybody who starts going down this road is questioning, how do I find good talent, right? How do I find what if I can't find somebody? I'm going to need workers. And the current labor market, it's just a strange, scary place to think about how to find really great people. Have you had any personal lessons learned on that? It sounds like you find the challenges, but you found your way around it too. Do you have any tips on finding the right talent?
When you find the right people, it's like magic and it's like building this incredible team. And I never played sports growing up, so I never got to experience like what it would be like to be on a team. But now that we're growing our team, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. It is so fulfilling to have employees that I know that I'm making a difference in their life, that they're paying bills off of money that they've earned by working for us. And
Mhm.
we have people coming to us now from other window cleaning companies or other companies that are trying to get hired with us to be a place that people want to work. It is a
That's
process. Like I used
mhm.
Indeed. I have to go through, like, I put the application out there, then I send them an email and list out all the bad things about this role. Like, this is going to be on ladders. It's going to be hot, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
Are you
Mhm.
still interested? Then they say yes. Then I have them follow up and say, can you send me a 30-second video to my phone? Nothing fancy. Just let me know how, who you are and why you want the job. And then from there, that really helped to narrow down. And then from there, um, we had a number of people that we could hire. But it's a lot. I put an
Yeah,
application, I put a Indeed posting. You probably have 50 to 100 applicants in one week, you know? It's a
and you have
job.
to go
It is
through
a
it all.
job.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you either do it and grow or you don't do it. And if I want to become a multi-unit owner, if I want to own
Mhm.
multiple locations, I'm going to have to get good at hiring. So, uh,
Mhm.
and if you're not the right person for it, then like you just need somebody on your team who can do it. And that's the other thing we've learned is like to hire your weakness.
Yeah, whichever you aren't naturally suited to do, doesn't energize you, you maybe aren't great at it, find somebody else to do that, and then you do what you're great
Yeah.
at. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'll just make the observation. I think it's so much fun that you and your husband seem to be like a perfect complement to one another in running a business. Like the things he brings to the table, the things you bring to the table, that what a great team foundation or core, right, for the rest of the group to
Yeah.
grow from. That's
And
nice.
it's been the best thing for our marriage. Like
Mm,
I have so much respect for him. I already knew he was
mhm,
a very hard worker, but just seeing
mhm.
how he is as a business owner and as a leader of these like young men that I feel like he is guiding and mentoring,
Mentoring.
just yeah, it's really incredible.
That's the how the puzzle pieces interlock
Yeah.
then. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But I think your point about mindset though, right? Adversity as something to be overcome as opposed to something that blows everything up and ends something, right? I think, your mindset really is important because business ownership is hard. I don't care, what we see on Instagram and, in these little 30-second reels where say, hey, I made $1 billion in 5 minutes, like, okay, that's not how life really works, right? It's hard work.
Mm-mm.
And clearly you guys are cut out for it, which is nice. Let's talk a little bit about surprises. You've touched on a few things that kind of, threw you for a loop here and there that you pivoted and adjusted, but what surprised you the most? And maybe how's that changed you as an owner by dealing with the surprises?
One of the things is I'm surprised is how much I love being a business owner, how much it
Oh, really?
deeply, deeply fulfills this like need I have to be of service to humanity and to the world.
Mhm.
And I get to um, have a business that is something people, maybe a luxury product or service, but people are paying us to provide to them.
Yeah.
Then I'm able to have employees, have a business, joined a BNI network in our local community. And so I really just love this model again because we have recurring customer clients. So it's not just this one off project and then I'm done with you, like what house
Mhm.
flipping was. It's, we'll see you again in 6 months or a year or 3 months or
Mhm.
whatever. And then the BNI has gotten me in touch with all of these other entrepreneurs and business owners that are in my community. And I just love it. I love meeting the
Yeah.
other business owners and I love, oh, you have a golf tournament. So, we might sponsor a golf tee or something or
Mhm.
just getting involved in it. It has gotten me more involved. And again, I don't like being a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to be at the home all the time. I want to
Mhm.
get out and be in the community. And so this
Mhm.
has allowed me to do that.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's great, and for you to be so self-aware about these things, I think that's nice, right? What you really want and what really fulfills you, and then going and doing it, right? And
Yeah.
then seeing it pay off. I think that's really fantastic, right? Because a lot of people think they want life to be different, but then never make any changes to make it different, right? It's to do the same thing
Yeah.
they've always done. Mhm. So
I've like ever since I was 18, I moved every 2 or 3 years. I've changed jobs every 2 or 3, like I've never been stagnant. I've moved
mhm.
or changed. I get bored easily, I think is one of my problems of why I've continued to sort of
Which is probably
grow
why you
and
love
change.
business ownership, right? Because there's
Yeah.
nothing boring about it, right? So,
But then like what did I do? As soon as became a Pinks owner, we opened Pinks, I became a franchise consultant. So it's like
well, that's true
another.
too. That's a natural progression, I think, like you talk about. Let's back up to a second to your role as an owner. So obviously you and your husband work together. He manages the people and the jobs. You've hired a salesperson. Let's talk about your role as an owner. What does a normal week look like for you? What do you handle yourself versus what gets delegated? I think a lot of people wonder, what does it look like to be an owner when you're not the operator, you're not the technician, you're not the salesperson? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's funny, too when people are like, "So how many hours do you think you'd work a week?" And it's like, we are always thinking about Pinks. We are always
Mhm,
getting prepared for whatever the next thing. Right now, I'm
mhm,
hiring, so I'm doing interviews. I do my BNI meetings. I'm networking. Mike does payroll, so he's watching the guys' timesheets. He's
mhm,
also always tinkering with the things. So, like, we're buying new vans, and he's double checking all the equipment. What does he want to change, or what does he want to keep? He's going through
mhm,
our systems. We need to have more of a checklist when we get to the house, when we leave, and then talking to our GM and making sure that if we changed this, how do you feel? And going back and forth. So Pink's makes us do owner videos that we use for our Facebook advertising. So he went
Mhm.
out yesterday. He was with the guys all day. It changes. I would say it changes. There's no one week that's all the same.
It's the same.
It
Mhm.
depends on the season and what we're doing. So I do a lot more. I'm a lot more hands-on in the beginning.
Mhm.
Pinks, when you open your first location, even before they give you this click up like 100 tasks, and it's everything from like getting your bank account, your EIN. So I'm usually the one that's handling most of those tasks of
Mhm.
opening accounts and setting up CRM, all the
Mhm.
paperworky things. And then
Mhm.
I'm also hands-on with hiring. Not that I think Mike would do a bad job. He's just not as extroverted as I am and likes to talk to people as much as I do. So I am helping him. And again, like it takes a lot to hire. So that that's a pretty significant part of what we're doing.
Mhm.
But like later on in the year, we go on vacation and
Mhm.
I take my kids to school, I pick them up from school. We're doing, birthday parties, and I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, so like I try to be present
Yeah.
with them, when I'm with them, and this allows us to do that, especially because we have that sales guy, which most people who have, especially if you just have 1 or 2 territories, the owner is usually the more of the hands-on operator. So usually they're gonna be the ones going out and doing sales calls during the day,
Mhm.
sending quotes, following up, making sure people
Mhm.
pay. But because we have that sales manager in place, we don't have to be the one to do that. So we're just making sure that things get done. Um,
Yep. I mean, that's the reality. I think that's an important thing. I mean, so many people, you probably hear it too when people are asking you for advice on how to proceed with franchise decisions. A lot of people want semi-passive or passive, and they want to view it more as I want to put money in, do nothing, and then get money back. And that's just not a reality, right? I mean, there's not much in life where you can just throw some money at it and then get a lot more money back, right? And the work, though, does deliver, like you said, real value. When you see what it does for your community, gives you back balance, gives you back control. I think the time you can spend with your family, the difference you can make for your employees. I think it's a great testament to how you're contributing to your community. Let's talk a little bit about the outcomes. Just reflection on results and kind of goals. Like, what did you expect when you were getting into the business? What outcomes were you expecting? And the key question, maybe I should save it for later, but I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to ask it. Would you do it again? Right. But let's
oh
talk
yeah.
first about expectations and how's the reality compared to what you were expecting?
They told us, price per van per day. You want to get to this revenue per day. And we were able
Mhm.
to hit whatever benchmark they had sent. We started hitting our KPIs like within the first month. So
Oh, great.
we were like optimized van one from May through December. And then our second van, when we opened in August, by September, it was optimized throughout the rest of the year.
Mhm.
So we're we're in break even
Mhm.
territory, having
Mhm.
been open less than a year. But this is a long-term play for us. We plan on being profitable this year in Chattanooga as long
Mhm.
as we do the things that we have sort of laid out. I would say if people are thinking about franchising, just to have someone, if they aren't, make sure when you do your pro forma, your spreadsheets, that you're like planning out best case, worst case, like maybe average. And so that way
Mhm.
you can kind of keep gauging where you are. And so I'd say we're hitting our goals, and I'm ready to be in profitability range, but
Mhm.
it's
Sure.
is what it is. There's a certain you got to hit a certain scale with a certain number of people and vans and things before that kind of happens. But we'll be there this year. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you did the right thing with your pro formas, that you had your best, worst, and most likely. It sounds like you didn't hit worst case, that maybe you didn't hit best case, but you had a plan and you're seeing the plan unfold within tolerances. And so
Yeah.
you're in the long game, which is good. So I guess let's go back to that question. Would you do it again? If you could undo everything you've done and you had to start over, would you do it again?
Yeah. Yeah. it's like having kids, I'm done
Yeah.
having kids. I had 2 and
Sure.
I'm very
Sure.
grateful for them. I
Yeah.
don't know if I wanna go back and start another business from
Hmm.
scratch, but
Hmm.
I kind of think at some point we're gonna end up doing that again.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love Pinks, they're it's a great business. I love the
Hmm.
corporate team. I love all the other Pinks owners. It's just a bunch
Hmm.
of winners. It just feels like
Hmm.
they're all working together. I get weekly support with them. I love we have a scorecard so I can see exactly where everybody's landing every week, where we are
Hmm.
across multiple KPIs. So, yeah.
Well, I think it sounds like when you're in an area of discomfort, you attack it until you're comfortable. So I don't think you need to go back in time and get those courses. I think you'll be okay. Sounds like,
Yeah.
if your track record continues to prove true. One last bit on Pinks, and then I want to pivot and ask a little bit about your franchise consulting work. Advice to anybody who's listening. Who's a strong fit, like for Pinks specifically? What types of traits would make someone a strong Pinks owner? And is there anybody you'd be like, you should think twice about this if you're thinking about Pinks? Like, what's the good traits or the scary traits?
It's interesting because there's Pinks owners that are doing well that have very different backgrounds. I think
Mhm.
a lot of the home service brands do well with veterans, firefighters, which we happen to fall into that category, police
Mhm.
officers. I would say those types of people are definitely good for Pinks.
Mhm.
It's essentially like Mike is used to being in a truck full of guys from the
Mhm.
firefighting days. And so anybody who's used to being in that kind of an atmosphere, I think could make a great leader in this and
Mhm.
be a business owner in this. Or someone who has really great sales skills, can be a people person, likes talking
Mhm.
to people, doesn't mind like the guys can be over here doing their thing and hire guys who can work in the truck, but they're the ones talking to the customers.
Mhm.
So sales skills, or I don't want to call it all blue collar, but there's
Mhm.
definitely, a
Uh,
blue collar background. I would say people who don't, if you're just like an IT guy and you like sitting in your home and being on your computer,
mhm.
I don't think that this is the right fit.
Good, fair. That's a
But
fair point. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think if people from more of a corporate background, again, if you can sit in that sales role, then I think you could be successful.
Mhm.
But if you've never hired before, if you've never built a team, if you've never owned a business,
Mhm.
I think you could be successful with the right partnership. So as long as you can
Mhm.
find people who have the skill sets around you, I almost think anybody who's really driven to do it could do it. It's just, I
Mhm.
don't know if it's the right fit.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, you've been in the seat now. You've survived a launch. You've got 5 units. You've got multiple trucks. You're scaling into a new market. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got a nice track record here. So, Diana, appreciate all that about Pinks. Now, let's take a few minutes because again, the fun part is how we met, even because we're both franchise consultants as part of the FBA, the Franchise Brokers Association. And I heard your story, and that's why I wanted to interview you for Pinks, but also, how you go to market now, you help people find franchises that are a good fit for them, just like I do. Tell us about how you're enjoying that journey. What's inspiring you most about that? And who do you look for as like an ideal, person for you to partner with?
Yeah. So once we started along this journey, I had a couple friends reach out and just were like, "What are you guys doing? Why did you buy a franchise?" And I found
Mhm.
Pinks and I love them and I want to tell
Mhm.
everybody about them. And if I can help people find a franchise that fits their life and I want people to have what I have, the incredible support, the financial roadmap to get to where we want to go, the systems and structures so you don't have to think about it and figure
Mhm.
everything out on your own. So I am really involved in networking and I like doing that. So I'm pretty
Mhm.
local. I haven't done a lot online. I don't mind if someone wants to reach out to me and talk to me. I'm happy to do that. But for me right now, I'm just focused more on my local market and talking to people. I'm planting seeds with a lot of people. And I think when people think about franchising, they think of KFC and Subway, and they don't think of all the different options there are out there. And I think if more people even just knew what their options were, especially they think maybe it costs millions of dollars. And yes, of course, there are franchises that cost $1 million, but there are also franchises that cost 100,000 or 200,000. And so I get really excited that I can continue to learn about all these different business models, and I can help sort of guide and steer people and show them things that they wouldn't on their own. I highly doubt that
Mhm.
they would find.
Yeah.
It's just being in this world, now I'm getting exposed to so many awesome, like, Pinks isn't the only cool brand. There's a lot of cool brands
Oh,
out
for
there.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love my net right now. I just wanna help other people who I feel like are like me, that want business ownership, but don't want to have to do it all themselves and
Mhm.
are open to just seeing what their options are.
Yeah, I think I love your perspective, Diana, because you've seen firsthand the value. Because franchising can be a religious war. Some people are like independent ownership, full creative control, don't pay a
Yeah,
royalty. Why pay a franchise fee? I always tell people that, look, you got to understand the trade offs. A franchise fee and royalties should be delivering value that you would have to, maybe you wouldn't have those fees, but you'd have other expenses to make up for the value you're receiving there. So I love that you're seeing that firsthand as a Pink's owner. I think that the process you went through working with a franchise broker that helped you see how that process can be better. Clearly you care about the people you work with, you care about your community and your family and your business. I think I wish you all the success in the world, and I know you're going to do great in all these endeavors, just because of who you are. So I'm really grateful, Diana, that you had a chance to come on and chat with me a bit today. I think it's going to be a highly valuable episode for people to listen to. Thank you.
thank you.
That was Diana Miller, multi-unit owner with Pink's Window Services and now a franchise consultant helping aspiring owners to find the right fit franchise. Stories like Diana's are exactly why this show exists, to hear directly from the people who have made the decision to buy a franchise and to learn from their experience on the other side of that choice. If you found this conversation helpful, consider following or sharing the show so more people exploring business ownership can hear these stories. This has been Voice of the Franchisee: How They Chose What They Learned. I'm Scott Elliott. Thanks for listening.